Valisa stood before the observation window of their quarters, watching the stars drift silently beyond the station's shield dome. Her 4 powerful arms folded across her chest, a habit she had whenever she was worried. And lately, she worried a lot. Behind her, Tammin sat at a small desk, reading reports on a datapad. The soft blue glow illuminated his face. Calm, gentle, peaceful. Everything Valisa was not. She turned and studied her husband. Even after 3 years of marriage, the sight still felt strange. Karathi were built for war. Their species had evolved on a brutal world where survival demanded strength. They stood nearly 8 feet tall. Their scaled skin could stop blades. Their muscles could bend steel. They possessed 4 powerful arms and instincts sharpened by centuries of conflict. Humans possessed none of those things. Tammin's skin looked impossibly soft. His hands seemed fragile. His body appeared almost delicate compared to hers. If someone who didn't know him saw them standing together, they would assume she was his bodyguard, not his wife. The thought made her smile. 3 years earlier, they had met during peace negotiations on Karathi Prime. Valisa had been assigned as security commander. Tammin had arrived with the human diplomatic delegation. At first, she found humans confusing. They smiled too much, laughed too easily, made jokes during serious discussions. They seemed absurdly relaxed, almost careless. But Tammin was different. He learned her language in less than 2 months. He listened when she spoke, actually listened. Not because he wanted something, not because he feared her, because he genuinely cared. When he invited her to dinner, she accepted. When he asked to see her again, she accepted. When he asked her to marry him, she never even considered saying no. Now they lived aboard Station Epsilon 7, a massive neutral space hub where dozens of species traded, negotiated, and occasionally pretended not to hate each other. It was one of the safest places in known space. That fact helped Valisa sleep at night, at least a little. Tammin worked as a cultural attaché. His job involved helping different civilizations understand one another. And somehow, he was very good at it. Everyone liked him. Merchants, diplomats, security officers, even species that normally disliked humans. People trusted Tammin. Valisa understood why. He never judged anyone, never raised his voice, never tried to prove he was smarter than everyone else. He simply listened. And somehow that made others want to speak. The communication panel suddenly chimed. Valisa immediately straightened. The screen activated. Commander Davik appeared. The older Karathi warrior looked grim. Scars crossed his face like old battle maps. All security personnel report to the briefing room immediately. His voice was hard, urgent. We have a situation. Valisa felt tension ripple through her body. What kind of situation? Pirates attacked a merchant convoy near the border. Davik's expression darkened. Intelligence believes they're heading here. The room suddenly felt colder. I'll be there in 5 minutes. The screen went dark. Tammin looked up from his datapad. Pirates? Maybe. Valisa moved toward the bedroom. Nothing confirmed yet. Armor plates clicked into place across her body. Black combat armor, worn and repaired dozens of times. It felt as familiar as her own skin. Tammin appeared in the doorway. His face showed concern. Will it be dangerous? Valisa attached a plasma rifle to her back. Probably not. Then she paused. Maybe. She hated lying to him. Stay here. Her voice became firm. Lock the quarters. If anything happens, go directly to Shelter 12. Tammin nodded. I understand. No argument. No complaints. Just trust. That somehow made her feel worse, because it reminded her how vulnerable he was, how completely defenseless he seemed. Valisa walked over and kissed his forehead. Humans always felt warm, almost impossibly warm. I'll come back. Tammin smiled. The small smile she loved more than anything. I always worry about you. Valisa laughed softly. I'm the warrior. You are. Tammin nodded. But you're also my wife. For a moment, she wished she could stay. Forget the alarms. Forget the station. Forget the pirates. Just stay here. With him. Safe. As she turned toward the exit, her eyes landed on something resting against the far wall. The black case. Long. Narrow. Always locked. She had noticed it countless times. Tammin had brought it from Earth when he moved to Epsilon 7. Years ago she had asked about it. What is inside? Old things from home. He had smiled. Nothing important. She never asked again. Everyone carried memories. Especially humans. Still, something about the case always felt strange. Too carefully protected. Too deliberately ignored. Maybe a musical instrument. Maybe artwork. Maybe family heirlooms. Whatever it contained, Tammin never opened it. At least not when she was around. Valisa, Tammin's voice interrupted her thoughts. You should go. She nodded. You're right. The door slid open. Before stepping through, she looked back one final time. Tammin stood quietly in the middle of their home, holding a datapad. Wearing simple civilian clothes. Looking exactly like what everyone believed humans were. Small, gentle, harmless. Someone who needed protecting. Someone who needed her. And Valisa silently promised herself she would never let anything happen to him. Not while she was alive. The door closed. And everything changed. Though she did not know it yet. She didn't know the black case held secrets buried for decades. She didn't know her husband had spent years hiding the truth. She didn't know that before he became a diplomat, before he became the kind, patient man she loved, Tammin had been something else entirely. Something the galaxy had once feared. The briefing room was already crowded when Valisa arrived. Security officers from a dozen species filled the chamber. Tension hung in the air. Commander Davik stood before a tactical display. His face was grim. More grim than she had ever seen. The situation is worse than expected. The room fell silent. The pirate force has been identified. A hologram appeared. The image caused immediate murmurs. Several officers cursed. Others visibly paled. Davik's jaw tightened. The attackers are Thalgrim. The murmurs became shocked whispers. Everyone knew the name. The Thalgrim weren't ordinary pirates. They were slaughterers. Destroyers. Living nightmares wrapped in armor. Entire colonies had disappeared after Thalgrim raids. No survivors. No mercy. No negotiations. Only death. How many ships? Someone asked. Davik enlarged the display. 6 warships. The room stiffened. Approximately 300 fighters. Now even the veterans looked worried. Valisa felt cold dread settle into her stomach. 300. Against a station security force barely half that size. The odds were terrible. They'll arrive in 4 hours. Davik pointed at the docking sectors. We defend the bays. We hold the station. We survive long enough for coalition reinforcements to arrive. Nobody spoke. Everyone understood what he wasn't saying. If reinforcements were late, thousands would die. As the briefing continued, Valisa received her assignment. Docking Bay 7. Frontline defense. One of the most dangerous positions on the station. Exactly where a warrior belonged. Yet as she studied the tactical maps, she found herself thinking about home. About Tammin. About the gentle human waiting in their quarters. And for the first time in years, Commander Valisa felt afraid. Not for herself, but for the man she loved. Because if the Thalgrim broke through, there would be nowhere safe left to hide. And somewhere, far above the station, 6 pirate warships were already cutting through the darkness. Coming closer with every passing second. Coming toward a secret that had remained buried for years. A secret locked inside a black case. Waiting to be opened. She would lead a squad of 12 soldiers in Cargo Bay 7. It was one of the main entry points to the lower docks. If the Thalgrim broke through the outer doors, her squad would be the last line of defense. After the briefing ended, Valisa tried to call Tammin on her communication device. The connection was weak. The station had activated jamming protocols to stop the pirates from hacking their systems, but that also made normal communication difficult. "Tammin, can you hear me?" His voice came through with static. "I hear you. Are you okay?" "I am fine. Listen carefully. The attack will come in a few hours. You need to go to the shelter on level 12 right now. Do not wait." "What about the other civilians? Someone needs to help coordinate the evacuation." "No. Let someone else do it. I need you to be safe." There was a pause. Then Tammin spoke again, and his voice was calm and steady. "I will help with the evacuation first. Then I will go to the shelter. I promise." Felisa wanted to argue. She wanted to order him to hide immediately. But she knew Tammin. He would help people, even if it put him in danger. That was who he was. "Be careful," she said quietly. "Please." "I will. You too." The connection ended. Felisa felt a deep worry in her chest. She pushed it down. She had a job to do. Worrying would not help anyone. 3 hours passed. The station shook as the first explosion hit the outer shields. The battle had begun. Felisa crouched behind cover in Cargo Bay 7 with her squad. The sound of weapons fire echoed through the corridors outside. The Thalrim were attacking multiple entry points at once. Red emergency lights flashed. Alarms screamed. "They are breaking through Sector 4. A voice shouted over the communication channel. "Sector 9 is holding but barely. Need reinforcements," the voice cut off suddenly. That was not a good sign. Then the door to Cargo Bay 7 exploded inward. Metal fragments flew everywhere. Thalgrim poured through the opening, their mandibles clicking with hunger for violence. Felisa fired her plasma rifle. The first Thalgrim fell, then the second, but more kept coming. Her squad fought hard, but the Thalgrim were strong and fast. One of her soldiers went down, then another. "Fall back to secondary positions," Felisa ordered. Her squad retreated behind larger cargo containers. The Thalrim followed, firing weapons that shot sharp metal spikes. The spikes punched through the containers like paper. This was going to be a long fight. Meanwhile, on the civilian levels, Tammin moved through the corridors, helping families evacuate. An older couple was too slow. He helped them walk faster. A mother could not find her son. Tammin searched 3 rooms until he found the boy hiding under a bed. The station shook again. Dust fell from the ceiling. People screamed and ran. Tammin stayed calm. He directed traffic like he was organizing a diplomatic reception. "This way. Please stay together. Help each other." Most of the civilians reached the shelter safely. Tammin counted heads to make sure everyone was there. That was when he heard a small voice crying. He turned and saw a young Karathi girl, maybe 6 years old, standing alone in the corridor. Her scales were bright green, meaning she was very young. Tears ran down her face. "Where is your family?" Tammin asked gently, kneeling down to her level. "I do not know," the girl sobbed. "We were running, and I fell down, and when I got up, everyone was gone." Tammin took her hand. "It is okay. I will help you find them. They are probably in the shelter already." He began leading her toward level 12. The corridor was empty now. Everyone else had already evacuated. The lights flickered. More explosions sounded in the distance, closer than before. They turned a corner and stopped. 3 Thalgrim warriors stood at the end of the corridor. They had broken through from the lower levels. Their weapons were covered in blood. When they saw Tammin and the child, they clicked their mandibles in what might have been laughter. "Well, well," one of them said in rough galactic standard. "What do we have here?" "The soft ones." Tammin moved the girl behind him. His heart pounded, but his face stayed calm. "Let us pass. We are no threat to you." "No threat?" "No, you are not." The Thalgrim warrior stepped forward, raising his weapon. "You are just prey. Close your eyes," Tammin said quietly to the girl. "Do not open them until I tell you, but close them now." The girl squeezed her eyes shut and covered her face with her hands. The Thalgrim warriors laughed. They thought this was funny. A human trying to protect a child. With what? Words. Tammin looked at them for a long moment. Then he spoke in a voice that was still calm, but somehow different. Colder. "Wait here. Do not move." He turned and ran back the way they came. The Thalgrim laughed louder. The human was running away. Of course he was. Humans always ran. But Tammin did not run far. He ran to his quarters, only 30 seconds away. The door opened. He stepped inside and went directly to the black case against the wall. His hands moved quickly. He opened the locks. Inside, Resting on red cloth was a sword. Not a modern weapon, not a plasma blade or energy cutter. This was metal, forged by human hands centuries ago. The blade was slightly curved. The handle was wrapped in dark leather. This was a huo, a sword his family had carried for 12 generations. Tommen lifted the sword from its case. The weight felt familiar in his hands. He had not held it in 3 years, but his body remembered. His grandfather had taught him when he was young. His father had taught him more. Before he became a diplomat, Tommen had been a soldier in the Korean military. He had trained with this blade for 15 years. He had hoped he would never need it again. He took a breath and walked back into the corridor. The girl still stood where he left her, eyes closed. The Thalrim warriors were waiting, now looking confused. What was the human doing? Then they saw the sword and started laughing even harder. "A blade?" one of them said. "What are you going to do with that?" Tommen did not answer. He just walked forward slowly, the sword held loosely at his side. The Thalrim warriors stopped laughing. The first Thalgrim warrior charged. He was big, maybe twice Tommen's size, with armor plating that covered most of his body. His weapon came up, ready to fire metal spikes that would tear through flesh and bone. Tommen moved. It was not the movement of someone who was afraid. It was not the movement of someone who was desperate. It was the movement of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. His body flowed like water, smooth and natural. The sword moved with him like it was part of his arm. The blade cut through the air with a soft whisper. Bethelgrim's weapon fell to the floor in 2 pieces. Then his arm fell next to it. Then another arm. The warrior had not even finished his charge when he collapsed, making confused sounds as his brain tried to understand what happened. The second Thalgrim stopped laughing. He fired his weapon. Metal spikes flew toward Tommen's chest. They would punch right through his soft human body. But Tommen was not there anymore. He had moved to the side so fast it looked like he teleported. The blade flashed again. The Thalrim's weapon split in half. So did the Thalgrim. He fell in 2 different directions. The third warrior was smarter. He did not charge. He did not fire. He turned and tried to run. Tommen threw the sword. It spun through the air like a disk of light. The blade entered the back of the Thalgrim's head and came out through his mouth. The warrior crashed to the floor and did not move again. Tommen walked forward calmly. He pulled the sword free, wiped the blade clean on the dead warrior's clothes, and slid it back into the simple cloth sheath he had brought from his quarters. The entire fight had lasted 8 seconds. "You can open your eyes now," Tommen said gently to the girl. She opened her eyes slowly. She looked at Tommen. Then she looked at the 3 dead Thalgrim. Then back at Tommen. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "It is okay," Tommen said, taking her hand again. "Let us get you to the shelter." They walked down the corridor, stepping over the bodies. The girl looked up at Tommen with wide eyes full of confusion and awe, and a little bit of fear. In the station's command center, a junior officer was watching security camera feeds from all over the station. Most screens showed fighting, Thalgrim pushing forward, station security pushing back, explosions, fire, death. Then she saw something on screen 47 that made her stop breathing. "Commander," she called out. "You need to see this." Commander Davik walked over, annoyed at being interrupted. "What is it?" She played back the footage. They watched a human male with a sword kill 3 Thalgrim warriors in 8 seconds. The movements were so fast and precise that Davik had to watch it 3 times to believe it was real. "Who is that?" Davik asked quietly. The officer checked the identification system. "Tommen, Human Cultural Attaché, residential quarters on level 8. "The diplomat?" Davik stared at the screen. "That diplomat just killed 3 Thalgrim with a blade." "Yes, sir." Davik was silent for a long moment. Then he did something he rarely did. He sent the video file to all security personnel currently fighting. He added a short message. "Do not underestimate the humans. In Cargo Base 7, was pinned behind a damaged cargo container. Half her squad was dead or wounded. The Thalrim kept coming. They were going to be overrun in minutes." Her communication device buzzed. A video file appeared on her helmet display. She almost ignored it. This was not the time to watch videos. But then she saw the title "Human Combat Footage All Personnel View." Immediately, she played it while firing her rifle. Her eyes widened. She played it again. Her hands started shaking. That was Tommen. Her gentle, peaceful, fragile husband, moving like death itself. killing with a metal blade like it was the easiest thing in the world. "All squads. This is Commander Davik," a voice said over the communication channel. "The Thalrim are pulling back from multiple sectors. Something spooked them. We are pushing forward. Do not let them regroup." The Thalrim in Cargo Bay 7 suddenly looked nervous. They stopped attacking and started retreating. Velisa and her squad pressed the advantage. Within 10 minutes, Cargo Bay 7 was clear. "What happened?" one of her soldiers asked. "Why did they run?" Velisa did not answer. She just played the video again on her helmet display. She could not stop watching it. Every time she saw Tammin move, saw the blade flash, saw the Thalgrim fall, her understanding of reality shifted a little more. Who was her husband? Who had she married? The battle continued for another hour, but the momentum had changed. The Thalrim were scared. They had come expecting an easy raid. They had not expected real resistance. And somehow the video of one human male killing 3 of their warriors had spread through their communication network. It confused them. It frightened them. Humans were supposed to be weak, soft, harmless. What kind of species could kill so easily with such a primitive weapon? The Thalrim fleet retreated. Station Epsilon 7 had survived. In the civilian shelter, Tammin sat on a bench with the young Karathi girl. He had returned the sword to its case. Now he was telling the girl a story about Earth, about a place called Korea, where mountains touched the sky, and rivers ran clear, and people lived in peace. The girl had stopped crying. She listened to his story, her eyes still watching him with that mixture of fear and wonder. "Are you a warrior?" she asked quietly. Tammin thought about the question. "I used to be. Now I am a diplomat. But you still know how to fight." "Yes, I still remember. Will you teach me?" Tammin smiled sadly. Fighting should always be the last choice. There are better ways to solve problems. That is why I became a diplomat. But what if talking does not work? What if bad people come? Then Tammin said quietly, "You protect the ones you love. You do what you must do." The shelter doors opened. Families started reuniting. The girl's parents found her and grabbed her in a tight hug. They thanked Tammin over and over. He waved them away politely, saying he had just helped a little, then appeared in the doorway. She was still wearing her armor. It was damaged and burned in places. She looked tired, but her eyes were locked on Tammin with an intensity he had never seen before. "Velisa," he said, standing up, "are you hurt?" She did not answer. She just walked toward him, her 4 arms hanging at her sides. People moved out of her way. Everyone could feel the tension in the air. When she reached Tammin, she looked down at him for a long moment. Then she spoke in a voice that was carefully controlled. "We need to talk." Tammin nodded slowly. He had known this moment would come eventually. He had hoped it would not be like this in the middle of chaos and death. But the galaxy rarely cared about what people hoped for. "Yes," he said, "we do." They walked out of the shelter together, leaving the celebrating civilians behind. The black case with the sword rested on the bench where Tammin had left it. The young Karathi girl stared at it for a long time, wondering about the human who could be so gentle and so deadly at the same time. She would never forget what she saw today. None of them would. They walked through the damaged corridors in silence. Emergency crews were already working to repair the worst damage. Bodies were being moved. Fires were being put out. The station would survive, but it would take weeks to fix everything. Velisa led Tammin to a small observation room near their quarters. It was private. The window showed the stars and the darkness of space. She closed the door and locked it. For a long moment, neither of them spoke, then pulled up the video on her wrist device. She played it. They both watched Tammin kill 3 Thalgrim warriors in 8 seconds. When it ended, she looked at him. Her 4 arms were trembling slightly. "Who are you?" Tammin sat down on a bench near the window. He looked tired suddenly, like all the energy had drained from his body. "I am your husband. I am Tammin. Nothing has changed. Everything has changed." Velisa's voice rose. She was not angry exactly. She was confused and hurt and lost. "You told me you were a cultural attaché. You told me you worked in diplomacy. You never said you were a warrior. You never asked," Tammin said quietly. "And I am a cultural attaché. I do work in diplomacy. That is not a lie. But before that, what were you before?" Tammin was quiet for a moment. Then he began to speak. "On Earth, in my country, Korea, most young people serve in the military for a few years. It is our duty. I joined when I was 20 years old. I served for 8 years instead of the required time. I was good at it. 8 years as a soldier, Valisa repeated. Doing what? Training, fighting, protecting, the same things soldiers do everywhere. He looked down at his hands. My family has a long tradition. That sword you saw, it has been in my family for 12 generations. My great-great-great-grandfather carried it in a war. My grandfather taught me how to use it when I was 10 years old. Vela sat down heavily on the bench across from him. Her mind was trying to catch up with all this new information. Humans are supposed to be fragile, peaceful. Everyone says this. The coalition reports say this. Who told you that? Tammin looked up at her with eyes that were suddenly sharp. Think carefully. Where did that information come from? Valisa thought back. Reports from First Contact. Studies done by coalition scientists. Common knowledge that everyone just accepted. Humans were weak. Humans avoided conflict. Humans were scholars and artists and diplomats. We chose to present ourselves that way, Tammin said. When we joined the coalition, we sent our diplomats and scientists and teachers. We showed the galaxy our art and music and culture. We did not send our warriors. We did not talk about our wars. We wanted to be seen as peaceful, but you are not peaceful. We are most of the time. Tammin stood and walked to the window. Humans have been fighting wars for our entire history. Thousands of years of conflict. We got very, very good at killing each other. We developed weapons. We studied combat like it was an art form. Every culture on Earth has its own fighting traditions. Some of them are thousands of years old. He turned to face her. Do you know why we got so good at fighting? Because we had to. Earth is a dangerous planet. It has animals that can kill humans easily. It has diseases. It has natural disasters. Humans have no claws, no thick skin, no venom. We are not naturally strong or fast compared to many predators on our own world. So, you learned to use weapons, Bella said slowly. Yes, we made tools. We made weapons. We trained until we were perfect. Because if we did not, we died. Tammin's voice was calm but intense. That sword is 300 years old. The techniques to use it are over 1,000 years old. And it is just one example. Humans have created hundreds of different fighting styles across our history. Vela felt like the ground was shifting under her feet. Everything she thought she knew about humans was wrong. Why did you never tell me this? Because I left that life behind. I did not want to be a soldier anymore. I had seen enough war, enough death. I wanted to do something better. So I became a diplomat. He smiled sadly. I came to the stars hoping to leave all the violence behind. But you still remember how to fight. Yes, that never goes away. It is like learning to swim. Once you know, you always know. A chime sounded. Valisa's communication device activated. Commander Davik's face appeared on the screen. He looked grim. Valisa, I need you and your husband in the command center immediately. We have a situation. What situation? The Thalrim retreated. They retreated to the lower cargo bays. They are holding 50 civilian hostages. They want a ship and safe passage off the station. Davik's jaw tightened. If we attack, they will kill the hostages. We are at a stalemate. Valisa felt her blood run cold. How long do we have? They gave us 2 hours. Then they start executing one hostage every 10 minutes. Davik looked at Tammin through the screen. I am requesting Tammin's assistance. After what I saw on the security footage, I think he might have skills we need. Tammin stepped closer to the screen. What do you need me to do? I need you to help us plan a rescue. A small team, fast and quiet, in and out before they know we are there. Davik paused. Can you do that? Tammin looked at Valisa. She saw something in his eyes that she had never seen before. Not fear, not anger, just cold, clear focus. The look of a man who had done dangerous things and survived. Yes, Tammin said. I can do that, but I will need help. What kind of help? Are there other humans on this station? Davik checked his data. 3 others currently present. Hyan, your brother, Sora, a civilian engineer, and Junho, a retired merchant. To contact them. Ask them to meet me in the command center. Tell them to bring anything they have from home. Tammin's voice was steady and sure. Any tools? Any equipment? Anything from Earth. Davik looked confused but nodded. I will contact them. Be here in 10 minutes. The screen went dark. Vela stood up. Why do you need the other humans? What are you planning? Tammin picked up the black case with his sword. You asked me who I am. Let me show you. Let me show all of you what humans really are. They walked toward the command center together. Valisa looked at her husband and saw him clearly for the first time. Not fragile, not weak, not helpless. Tammin was a human, and humans, she was beginning to understand, were dangerous in ways the galaxy had not yet realized. When they arrived at the command center, 3 other humans were already waiting. Hyan, Tammin's younger brother, stood holding a long case similar to Tammin's. Sora, a woman with sharp eyes, had a small bag slung over her shoulder. Junho, an older man with gray hair and scars on his hands, carried a worn backpack. They all looked at Tammin. Something passed between them without words. A recognition, an understanding. "It is time," Hune asked quietly. Tammin nodded. "It is time." Commander Davik watched the 4 humans with growing confusion and something that might have been worry. "What exactly are you planning?" Tammin set down his case and opened it. The sword gleamed in the light of the command center. The other humans opened their cases and bags. Hyan had a bow and arrows. Sora had knives. Junho had things that looked like tools, but Valisa suspected were weapons. "We are going to save those hostages," Tammin said calmly. "And we are going to show you why humans survived on a death world for 200,000 years." The room went very quiet. Tammin began explaining his plan. As he talked, realized something that made her feel cold inside. She had married a warrior, a killer, a man who had been trained since childhood to end lives with efficiency and precision. And she had never known. She had looked at him every day and seen only gentleness and peace. She had thought he was fragile. She had been so very wrong. Tammin stood at the holographic display showing the layout of the lower cargo bays. His finger traced paths through corridors and ventilation shafts. The other humans stood around him listening carefully. Commander Davik and his officers watched with growing amazement. "The hostages are being held in Bay 3. Tammin said 20 Thalgrim guards inside, maybe another 30 in the surrounding corridors. They have set up sensors at all the main entrances. Any direct assault will trigger alarms, and they will kill hostages immediately. That is why we cannot attack," Davik said with frustration. "We are stuck." "You are stuck because you are thinking like soldiers," Tammin replied. "You want to hit them hard and fast with superior force. But we are going to hunt them." "Hunt them?" Valisa asked. "Yes." Tammin looked at each of the humans in turn. "Humans are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest. We do not have armor or claws or venom. But we are the best hunters in the galaxy. It is what we were built for." Hyan stepped forward. "On Earth, humans hunted animals much larger and more dangerous than us. Animals with sharp teeth and thick skin. We could not fight them head-on. So, we learned patience. We learned to track. We learned to strike from hiding. We learned to kill silently," Sora added. Her voice was quiet but cold. "Predators on Earth can see in the dark. They can hear a heartbeat from far away. They can smell fear. Humans learn to be quieter than quiet, to move without sound, to attack from places no one expects." Junho spoke last. His voice was rough like old leather. "Death world tactics. That is what we call them. Every human child learns these things through games and stories. Hide and seek tag. We play at hunting because it is in our blood. It is what kept us alive when everything on our planet wanted to kill us." Davik looked at the 4 humans with new eyes. "You are saying humans are ambush predators?" "Yes," Tammin said simply. "And now we are going to use that against the Thalgrim." He explained the plan in detail. Hyan would position himself in the upper maintenance levels with his bow. The old Korean composite bow was silent, perfect for taking out sentries without alerting others. Sora would move through the ventilation system. She was small enough to fit in spaces most species could not. She would disable the sensors and communication equipment from inside the walls. Junho would create distractions, small fires, strange noises, things that would make the Thalrim nervous and divided. And Tammin would go directly to the hostage area. When the moment was right, when the Thalgrim were confused and scattered, he would strike. "This plan requires perfect timing," Davik said. "One mistake, and people die. Then we will not make mistakes," Tammin said. One of Davik's officers, a veteran soldier, shook his head. "With respect, this sounds impossible. You are talking about infiltrating a defended position with only 4 people, 4 civilians." Junho laughed. It was not a happy sound. "Civilian is just a word. I spent 30 years in human special forces before I retired. Sora was an intelligence operative. Han trained with the Korean military for 6 years. And Tommen, he looked at the younger man with respect. Tommen was one of the best close combat specialists in his unit. We are not civilians. We are just humans who chose to do other things. But we remember our training. Davik was quiet for a long moment, then he nodded. When do you start now? Maine said. He picked up his sword. The Thalgrim said 2 hours. We have 1 hour and 30 minutes left. That is enough time. The 4 humans left the command center. Felisa started to follow, but Tommen stopped her. No, this is not your mission. You are my husband. I should be with you. If you come, they will see you, hear you, smell you. Tommen's voice was gentle but firm. No offense, but Karathi are not built for stealth. You are warriors who fight with honor in open combat. This is different. This is hunting. Felisa wanted to argue, but deep down she knew he was right. She watched him walk away, the sword in his hand, and felt useless for the first time in her life. The humans split up and moved through the station like ghosts. Hyun climbed to the maintenance levels and found his position overlooking the main corridor leading to the cargo bay. He strung his bow slowly and carefully. The bow was over 200 years old, passed down through his family just like Tommen's sword. The arrows were tipped with sharpened metal, silent. Below, a Thalgrim sentry walked patrol. Hyun drew an arrow, aimed, released. The arrow crossed 30 meters in less than a second and entered the Thalgrim's head through the eye. The sentry fell without a sound. Han was already drawing his second arrow before the first body hit the ground. Sora crawled through the ventilation system like she had done it 1,000 times before. She was small and flexible. On Earth, she had been trained to infiltrate enemy positions through impossible spaces. This was actually easier than some of her old missions. She found the junction where the Thalrim had connected their sensor equipment to the station's power grid. She pulled out tools from her bag and began disconnecting wires. The sensors went dark. The Thalrim would notice soon, but by then, it would be too late. Junho moved through the lower levels, setting small charges. Not explosions, just smoke and sparks and loud noises. He placed them in different locations, all timed to go off in sequence. When he was done, he found a dark corner and waited. Tommen approached the cargo bay where the hostages were held. He moved slowly, carefully. He breathed in patterns that slowed his heart rate. An old meditation technique combined with combat training. His body disappeared into the shadows. 2 Thalgrim guards stood outside the bay doors. They looked nervous. Something felt wrong to them. The sensors were not working. One of their sentries had not reported in. Strange sounds echoed through the corridors. One of them spoke into his communication device. Command, this is position 7. We are experiencing technical difficulties. Request. An arrow appeared in his throat. He fell gurgling. The second guard spun around, trying to find the shooter. He never saw Tommen coming from the other direction. The sword flashed once. The guard's head separated from his body. Inside the bay, the Thrim captain was getting angry. What is happening out there? Someone report. Static. No answer from any of his exterior guards. Lock down the bay, he ordered. If anyone tries to enter, kill a hostage. The hostages, 50 civilians of different species, huddled together in fear. They had watched the Thalgrim kill 2 people already as examples. They knew these pirates were serious. Then the lights went out. Emergency backup lights came on, but they were dim and red. Smoke started pouring in through the ventilation system. Alarms began ringing in random patterns throughout the bay area. What is going on? The captain shouted. Someone fix this. Thalgrim warriors ran in different directions trying to find the source of the problems. That was when Hyun's arrows started flying. Thalgrim fell one by one, each shot perfect, each kill silent. Sora dropped from the ceiling vents directly into a group of 3 Thalgrim. Her knives flashed. The techniques were old, passed down through generations of human martial artists. She killed all 3 before they could raise their weapons. Junho's charges went off. Small explosions of smoke and sound. The Thalrim were trained warriors, but this kind of combat was new to them. They were used to direct fights, ship to ship, army to army. This was different. This was fighting against enemies they could not see, could not predict, could not defend against. This was being hunted. Tommen entered the main cargo bay through a side door that Sora had unlocked. The Thalrim captain was in the center of the room, surrounded by 10 guards. The hostages were behind them. Show yourself. The captain screamed into the smoke and chaos. "Stop hiding and fight like a warrior." Tammin stepped into the light. The captain saw a single human male with an ancient metal sword. He started laughing. "You one human with a blade. You are here to save them." The captain raised his weapon. "I will kill you first. Then I will kill all of them." "No," Tammin said quietly. "You will not." He moved. Later, the security cameras would try to track his movements. They would fail. Tammin flowed between the Thalrim like water through cracks in stone. The sword sang. Guards fell. The captain fired his weapon, but Tammin was not where the shots went. The blade found the captain's throat. 10 trained Thalgrim warriors died in 15 seconds. Tammin stood in the middle of the bodies, breathing calmly, the sword held loose and ready. The hostages stared at him with shock and terror and gratitude all mixed together. "You are safe now," Tammin said. "Station security will escort you out. Please move quickly and stay together." The cargo bay doors opened. Vila and Commander Davik entered with a full security team. They stopped and stared at the scene. Bodies everywhere, smoke clearing, and Tammin standing calm and clean in the center of it all like death itself, wearing a gentle face. The other humans emerged from the shadows. Hyan with his bow, Sora with her knives, Junho with his tools. They nodded to each other. The mission was complete. Commander Davik walked through the cargo bay slowly. He counted 15 dead Thalrim here. His officers were reporting another 20 dead throughout the lower levels. 35 enemies eliminated by 4 humans in less than 30 minutes. No hostages killed, no humans injured. "How?" he asked quietly. "How did you do this?" Tammin cleaned his blade and put it back in its sheath. "We are humans, Commander. We come from Earth. Our planet spent millions of years trying to kill us with predators and diseases and disasters. We survived by becoming better hunters than anything that hunted us. We learned patience, precision, the ability to kill quickly and efficiently." He looked around the cargo bay. "You see us as diplomats and scientists because that is what we choose to be now. We chose peace because we were too good at war. We nearly destroyed ourselves with our own violence. So when we reached the stars, we decided to be better. But the capacity for violence remains," Davik said. "Yes, it will always remain. That is the burden we carry." Tammin looked tired suddenly. "Every human knows how to fight. It is part of our culture, our history, our biology. We try to leave it behind, but it never truly goes away." Belissa walked to her husband. She looked at him for a long moment. Then in front of everyone she knelt down on one knee. In Karathi culture, this was a gesture of respect given to warriors who had proven themselves in impossible battles. "I am sorry," she said. "I thought you were fragile. I thought you needed my protection." Tammin reached down and gently pulled her back to her feet. "I am fragile. Humans are fragile. We do need protection. We are not strong or tough or long-lived." He smiled. "But we learn to survive anyway. That is what makes us human." The news of what happened spread through the station quickly, then through the sector, then through the galaxy. The story of 4 humans who saved 50 hostages using ancient weapons and techniques that were thousands of years old. The Galactic Coalition began a full review of their intelligence on humans. They discovered things they had overlooked. Earth's long history of warfare, the hundreds of different martial traditions, the weapons that ranged from simple to sophisticated, all designed to help fragile beings survive. One coalition analyst wrote a report that would change humanity's status in the galaxy. "We made a critical error in our assessment of humans. We saw their choice of peace and assumed it was because they were incapable of war. We were wrong. Humans chose peace because they were too capable of war. They learned every possible way to kill and then decided to stop. This does not make them weak. This makes them the most dangerous species we have ever encountered, because humans know violence intimately and choose to restrain it. But that restraint should never be mistaken for inability." The report ended with a warning. Humans are from a death world. Everything on their planet tried to kill them. They won. They survived. They thrived. And now they walk among the stars, gentle and kind and helpful. But if you threaten them, if you threaten their families, if you force them to choose between peace and survival, they will remember what they are. They will remember they are hunters from a world that tried and failed to end them. And you will learn why Earth's dominant species carries ancient weapons as family treasures. You will learn why they still train their children in combat even in times of peace. You will learn that humans are not fragile. They are simply too dangerous to be anything else. On Station Epsilon 7, life slowly returned to normal. Repairs continued. Merchants returned. The station thrived again. In their quarters, Valissa watched Tammin carefully place his sword back in its case and lock it. He would probably not open it again for years, maybe decades, but it would always be there. "Ready? I love you," she said quietly. Tammin turned and smiled at her. "I love you too. I know you better now." "Yes, now you know what humans really are." Valissa walked to him and held him gently, careful of his fragile body, mindful of his short life, grateful for every moment. "You are still fragile to me. You always will be. But now I understand. Being fragile and being dangerous are not opposite things." "No," Tammin agreed. "They are not." Outside their window, the stars turned slowly in the darkness, and somewhere in that darkness, the galaxy was learning a new lesson about the species from the death world called Earth. Humans were not fragile, despite their soft bodies and short lives. They were formidable because of them.